Well, guitar friends, it's Tim Fagan here, and this is the very, very first episode, and we're doing audio and we're doing video, and we're so glad you're here. Guitar friends, speaking of which, my very good friend, Galen Maynard, is here. You may know him from the teaching my college buddy, guitar from the snippets on the gram and whatnot. And we've been doing almost weekly Zoom lessons for a while now, diving into the depths of making guitar progress with Galen. But I am coming at this all from being just sort of a songwriter, producer, and I was a touring guitarist with Colby Calais back in the day, and another artist named LP. And so this sort of amalgam of all my experiences with making music has led me in a way back to guitar playing as my first and foremost love. And that's why teaching these lessons, which if you're hearing this, I'm still kind of in the early stage of that journey. Hopefully you're hearing this years in the future, and my empire of guitar lessons has built up since now. But I'm just beginning to create courses that essentially are designed to, what would make me stop if I was like scrolling, and if I was, maybe a teenager, or just getting my sort of guitar technique going now in 2023. What would be something that I would enjoy bumping into out there? And that's the sort of emphasis that I'm trying to go with, is like what would seem sort of fun and kind of refreshing. And that is kind of why we're diving into this experiment right here. But Galen, tell me a bit about yourself and your guitar journey thus far.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed these weekly sessions. I'm kind of an intermediate guitar player. I learned all my cowboy chords when I was in high school, and then I put the instrument away. And like a lot of us during COVID, I picked it up again. But this time I decided I wanted to really understand the fretboard in a way that I didn't when I was growing up. So I started scouring the internet and looking at diagrams and thinking about music theory for the first time, and reaching a lot of dead ends. So it's been a lot of fun to like take small pieces and kind of stitch them into my understanding of the guitar and try to apply them right away to get them in the bloodstream, make them stick. And so that's what I've enjoyed most about these sessions, is just really going deep on one thing and then trying to use it right away, trying to practice with it, rather than trying to boil the ocean of the internet, which I think a lot of us try to do. It appeals to us. There's a lot of interesting clickbait out there and another thing to learn. So the love of learning in itself is exciting, but yeah, it doesn't help it get under your fingers.
It's endless, the ocean, and waves every day. And like, so much of it is good. Like the enormous upside I feel of internet learning in general is like, I can sometimes be a sort of makeshift handyman, whatever the topic is, and like figure out how to like, solve a leaky pipe or something, where I feel like I can just YouTube it. And that extends from like any area of like, I wonder if I can look it up. And a lot of times you can. And as a reference resource with guitar, there's endless like good lessons, wildly sort of like meandering lessons, and all over the map. And then it can sometimes, as we all know, after you sort of snack on a lot of them, it leaves me sometimes feeling a little bit lost as far as like where the plot is or the through line is. And so with all that in mind, the impetus for this was like, all right, well, whenever I get together with Galen, my college buddy, I inevitably find a way to try to sort of push his buttons and sort of like turn it into a game or a challenge or something where it's like, okay, that's cool. I hear that you did your homework. You've got this theory going on, but what if I asked you to do this? And some of those kind of like pop quiz moments, as I remember from, taking guitar lessons, anytime I was sitting with my guitar teacher once a week, I would sit with this amazing teacher named Jimmy Funai. And I would just feel so nervous, even though I felt prepared and I'd sort of done my homework. It was that moment where I had to sort of play it for someone else that I would get sort of like the sweaty palms. And there's something in that is, I think, healthy, where it's like let's just see what happens. And the more that we all do that, I feel like it really, like you're saying, it has a way of like sticking to your bones or getting in the bloodstream. And that essentially is the sort of, by the way, I think we're going to call this Guitar Friends podcast. because that's what we are, folks. And the sort of the gauntlet we're throwing down for ourselves is like, okay, in each one of these episodes, can we come up with a way to use it? Because it's sort of the use it or lose it idea with guitar theory, with all of the resources and all the ideas and everyone kind of learning some of the lingo of caged and, modes and Dorian and Locrian and all these things flying around. Is there a way that we can piece by piece sort of stick it to a song idea or a challenge or a little bit of a bite-size victory so that we can kind of then look back and say like, oh, I know that now. It might have been a little step, but we added it to the set of moves, the bag of tricks, as it were.
Sounds like we got a little Tony in the background.
Tony Baloney and or Lolly, my dog's in the background. At some point, we'll do an entire podcast just featuring an interview with them, but they will be shaking. And usually that means that's a sign for things to move on. Let's talk about what the deal is today. By the way, I'm recording here from Nashville, Tennessee. This is my sort of everything lab here, and it's sort of the dog kennel / studio / now podcasting space. Where are you recording from, Galen?
I'm in a mini bunker here in Seattle, 20 floors below sea level. Well, not really. It feels like that in the wintertime, but right now we've got some sunshine, so trying to enjoy it. Soak it up while we got it.
Yeah, soak it up. Every time I've been to Seattle, it's been that sort of like unexpectedly glorious sunny weather where it makes anyone visiting feel like y'all are lying about the rain. Just be like, oh yeah, man, we only got like 12 of these days a year. Like lucky you got here for this.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically true. We just don't want anyone to come visit when it's super nice from July 4th to September 31st. But we're just outside that window now. Oh, no, we're not. It's September 1st. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
It's still nice. It's going to be nice for a few more weeks.
You sent me pictures of you fishing wild salmon the other day. It's like, oh, yeah, don't come. It's lame here. Nothing
That's true.
on.
I did get my Pacific Northwest merit badge after all these years, finally, for catching a salmon off the beach. I feel like that's once you've done that, you're in.
Yeah, it's required.
You're a fish.
Well done. So let's see. I think today our challenge is going to be like, I don't know if you folks noticed, but it was just all's quiet on the podcast front when we started this episode. There was no music. There was no nothing. There was tumbleweeds rolling through the intro because we don't have a theme song. Can you believe that, Galen? We don't have a theme song.
I mean, it is episode 1, so I'm going to cut us a little break. Okay. But, I feel like there's some heavy lifting to do. We got to put something up there that really energizes the people. And by the people, I mean us. We need to be energized when we start this process.
I feel like we're already pretty much like crackling on the mic and there's a lot of energy, but there's room for more. Just starting with the people in the room, we're going to take the adrenaline through the roof because our job today, and insert sound effect or explosions, I need that at my fingertips. We're going to make a theme song for this podcast and we're going to do it on the podcast. It's very meta. And I think we've got, like any creative endeavor, I think we got to set some healthy goalposts so that we can sort of find a way to see this through in really just like one sitting. So that's the fire we're putting under us. An opening riff. Where do you think we should start with our process?
We've got 2 guitars, if you can see it on the video. So I think at the very least, there needs to be 2 guitar parts, and there's got to be some drums, maybe some digital drums.
Ooh. Okay.
And 1 chaos additional instrument, maybe.
Okay. This is already making my head spin. So I like 2 people, 2 guitars. I like that recipe. What if... And this is one thought that I had was like, and by the way, as we're diving into this, the only thing that we've sort of told ourselves going into this opening episode is like, can we give ourselves a few like sort of strategic parameters to make it interesting? Because we're going to dive into some theory. I hope you stick with us as we talk about some specific things that might help each and every guitar player out there. But also just to try to immediately put it into use with some ideas that might sound like, well, I don't know how that's going to work. Trust us, we don't know how it's going to work yet either. But we're going to jump in and make a mess. And so I'm thinking maybe if we have a rhythm guitar part and a lead guitar part, it could be interesting if we sort of flip a coin and we figure out which one of us is doing which. and maybe, just maybe, this little riff has a part A and a part B. And when it switches to the other part, we switch roles. So maybe we go from, if you start on rhythm, you switch to lead, and vice versa.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. So we're going to be rhythm and lead. We're going to be switching those roles. Drums could be cool if we get to it. I like that. I have several other instruments here, stringed instruments like ukulele and a 12-string and a baritone and a banjo. And the chaos wheel, which we will soon be meeting, is literally just a randomizing wheel. And we're going to spin that wheel and find out what it tells us to add into the mix. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about like more on the strategy side, as far as like, I always like to think, whether I'm writing a song or sometimes I'll be given what's called a brief for writing a piece of music for advertising or whatever it might be in the realm of music production. I like to think in terms of influences. Sometimes they give me influences, like a list of people to reference and essentially be inspired by. But in a case like this, where it's sort of a blank canvas, maybe we can talk about mood and artists or bands that might spark off a starting point. What do you think?
So I'm feeling something in the rock genre. I mean, a 2-guitar rhythm and lead situation. It's definitely, we don't want people to snooze coming in. I think there needs to be some energy.
Yeah, so less NPR and more AC/DC.
Yeah, as much as I love NPR.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you're hearing us right now, I mean, we love you, and Tiny Desk, Medium Desk. We'll show up.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
And Terry Gross. Big fan.
Terry Gross. Yeah. I mean, if we could just have the mic control that they all do when they get right up next to the mic, that would be inspiring for our guitar players out there. Okay, so let's rock it a bit. Let's sort of set the rock sauce to like, medium to high. And let's think, okay, so if we were to think of an influence in that realm, I mean, I know we love Tenacious D, and I know we're going electric, but man, they rock so hard on acoustic. It feels almost like there could be something triumphant if we channel a bit of that energy. And one moment in Tenacious D that I always, of all the moments that I love so much, it's when in Wonder Boy he says, and was it rocking out and bursting out in 3-part harmony?
Blasting out in 2-part harmony, 3-part harmony, and then there's just a single voice.
And then Jack just goes, wow! And I love how it's this irony. It's almost like the name Ben Folds 5 it's a trio, and it's like the sort of head fake of it. And so there could be something cool about it just being like 2 guitars rocking as if there's like, arena rock drums behind us, but it's just sort of
But there's just a shaker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So maybe on the wheel, I like that idea. Maybe on the wheel we put like different percussion instruments where it's kind of like 2 guitars and 1 tiny drummer, which is like, I've got the egg shaker, I've got like the sort of baton shaker, I've got jars that have beans in them, and there might be something else that sort of, it plays a big role, because when you have a power trio, that every leg of that trio impacts the sound greatly. I like that.
Okay, we haven't discussed this in advance, but I do have in front of me, I have
ooh.
So we could that feel like that fits in the tiny drummer realm. Obviously it has actual tonal pieces to it as well. It's not just straight drums, but we could throw in something that feels not at all like the guitars, something that's very like light and airy. It's like guitars are doing their thing, and then there's like the
do you realize
PSA announcement.
You've already introduced the Phil Spector wall of sound. We might as well bring in like the children's choir. It's like we just went from like, okay, just 2 guitars to like, okay, but also obviously we need percussion. Okay, but also obviously we need the xylophone or the glockenspiel choir. I like it. Okay, so 4 elements. Okay. And we'll
are the 2 guitars each an element, or is that 1 element?
Nah,
and we
it's
get
1 element
3 more.
each. Yeah, I think we gotta go ultra minimal, and we gotta put the pressure
to the bone.
So we gotta put the pressure on us. And I would ask you if this is indeed the assignment that's coming at you, Galen, the guitar player in this band. Is there anything going on in what you're practicing or studying where there's a theory concept that you hear about that you would have a question about? Be like, well, if I'm going to be playing rhythm, I might need to brush up on blank.
Yeah. So let's see. So I've been really focused on just trying to look at the E shape going to caged here, looking at the chords and scales that are all tied to a root note on the low E string. Like I've played a lot of those things independently, but not tried to seamlessly switch between them. And so some of our first practice as it relates to that was switching between the major and minor pentatonic in the E shape. And then recently I started trying to learn my seventh arpeggios in the E shape. And those feel kind of jazzy. They kind of sound a little jazzy. I'm not sure if they're appropriate for today's assignment or not, but that's something I definitely like to explore a little bit more, is like better understanding the seventh and what chords does it sound good on and which chords should you maybe not add that spice to in a diatonic key because it doesn't sound so great, or maybe you need to flat it or adjust it somehow to make it sound good.
Okay. So I like where your brain is at. I will say it also feels like you're demonstrating a bit of like a lot going on itis, because there's a lot going on there. And if we can distill it and take from the maybe 5 or 6 concepts you're working on, which is great, to have the plate full, what one of those can we take off? And let's see, within the context of this sort of rocking that we're going to be doing, like, and within the idea of like an E shape. So just to be clear, like I'll play, like, for example, like an E shaped bar chord on the 5th fret would be that E shaped bar chord A. And when we get into a rock sort of mindset, right away, I'm sure you know power chords, either like as a term, you know it, or you've already like learned some of those. And all a power chord is like taking notes away from the full bar chord. And you're really just, the classic bar chord is just the root, the 1. In this case, the 1 is A on that 5th fret of the 6th string. You might just have 3 notes. Those low 3 notes are going to be like the A, the E in this case, which is the 5th. And then a lot of times we add that octave, that A up on top. So the low 3 strings gives you that classic 3-note bar chord. You can also just play 2 notes, just the low 2 notes of those 3. And that's the original. It's just a 5th. So it has a very kind of, the fact that it doesn't have a major or minor third, it's just made of a root and a 5th and then another root, if you want to add that one, makes it very movable, because you kind of can ignore in a lot of ways like what the other parts of the harmony are doing. Especially if you're writing the riff, you can basically just write it as if it's a bass line. So if you went like and said, I want to make those power chords, you literally can just take that recipe and be like, and immediately it gives you this sort of like rock sauce freedom to just be thinking independently in terms of like, you could do anything that catches your ear, like, and it gives you, I want you to file that away just as like sort of a side note, is that once you're using power chords, you can kind of treat them as if they're just bass notes. And then you can start with something you're humming in your head, play a bass line like boom 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 boom, and then turn it into power chords. So that's really fun to have that energy and that color of the rocking. And then with more of what you're talking about as far as like maybe the 7th chord, maybe that's something that we can look at. So let's take, if we imagine we're in A and we're taking this power chord shape, the sort of the root, the 5, and then that octave A. That flat 7 is on that string there, the 4th string. So we've got that high A, and if we take that high A down 2 frets, we're going to get which note? Well, howdy there, folks. It's Tim from GuitarFriendTim.com. Do you feel like your playing is sort of stagnating? Have you been practicing for years and you're not quite sure if you're getting better anymore? It's just sort of going around in circles. Well, that's why I started making guitar lessons, because I felt like online, all the lessons were starting to look and sound and feel the same. And there's one thing to have a lot of information. It's another thing to be inspired. That is the inspiration behind my new Gauntlets series. These gauntlets are like mini songs that I make from scratch in my studio. I designed it to be almost like a video game where you first beat the game on easy mode and then you go back and try it again. I give you some new concepts to try over the same piece of music, and it levels up your playing gradually. So you're having fun the whole time, and then getting better is just what naturally happens when you keep coming back to the instrument. So if you want to try the gauntlets, now is a great time. I got a special offer just for my new podcast listeners. That's you. $10 off the annual membership. All you got to do is enter the discount code TASTY10. That's TASTY10 at the checkout part of guitarfriendtim.com. The link is in the description. Thank you.
I'm looking at my hand, and
so we got like the low A. Play that first on the 6th string. Right. And then we've got on the next highest string, the 5th string, we've got that E on the 7th fret, right? And then we've got that high A, which is on the 4th string, right? So now that high A, if we take that down 2 frets, we've got
G.
Heck yeah. So the G is the flat 7 scale degree in relation to the A. And what might be good as far as our little nugget here is to think that sometimes we're putting an interval in the context of an entire scale. So sometimes we're thinking, the flat 7 would appear, let's say, in the A mixolydian. You don't need to remember all this, but sometimes we're thinking of how that flat 7 might function in the context of an entire scale or an entire chord. But it's good to also just get to know what that flavor sounds and feels like entirely on its own. So the feel of a flat 7 in relation to its 1 is it's got its own thing. So if we were to just build from the power chord, boom, boom, and then we add this, our sort of magical 4th note is this flat 7. Play me those notes sort of all in a sequence there. Keep going, you got it. Okay. So underthink it. So back to the scene of the crime. We'll build it from scratch.
Okay.
So hands off the wheel for a second. So we've got our A. We've got our low A. We've got our. So that's our power chord. Let's just start there. So play those 3 notes. Oh, so now you just played all 4. Okay, well then now you're ready. So, so you were processing.
I was trying to grab it from another part of the bar. I didn't realize I was just lifting my pinky off.
Yeah. And that is what's useful, because in this little spot, I want you to see as if the full A chord or that full bar chord lights up. And so back to your original idea, you've got this E shape. So we're talking about the E shape that we're now moving up to different bar chord spots. You can see that E shape light up and then take notes away from it, but you've used that as a way to find your anchor. You've used it as GPS. So the whole takeaway here is that by looking at the full bar chord, but only using the power chord, you can very easily find that power chord. And then from that power chord, and I'm using my index finger and kind of just repositioning it right there on that G, that flat 7. Yeah. So now take that exact same recipe, and let's say if I said, okay, forget A, let's do it in G. So take everything and build it up in G, the G power chord, and then find the flat 7 related to G. Right. How about C? Right. So right away, you don't need to call upon all the other scale knowledge and all the other notes of the chord, but you can just find it from that anchor, which is super useful because already it's starting to sound like kind of a mix of rhythm and lead. Like it almost sounds like an intro riff, brah. I mean, I don't know, but it's like it sounds like a classic kind of rock riff. And the key to it is like you're keeping your ingredients list down to like 3 things. You've got your root, you've got your 5th, and then you're bringing in that flat 7, right?
Yeah.
so that would be something just as a takeaway, like a homework assignment, is like get comfortable with that little shape and inventing riffs in that little kind of mini box area, right?
Okay.
So maybe I think that's enough of a theory, like concept.
This is the flat 7.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because I've been practicing the major 7. I'm noticing just now that it's a half step away. That's why I was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get the different sound in the ears.
Yeah. Yeah. And really think of it as like, it just in the same way that the major third is in one spot and then the minor third is just a half step lower. It's almost like you're kind of loosening or letting out a little bit of air. So the major is going to be a little bit brighter and a little bit closer to, to the root. And if you lower it by a half step, just in terms of the concept of like where to find it, it's like it's in the name, it's also in the fretboard, it's also just in how the note sounds. So like if we've got this A and then so start to let that feeling of a flat 7 kind of overpower like the number 7 sometimes makes us think like, oh, 7, I know where to find that. But it's as different as red and blue. It's like the very different color. And so when you think third, you really need to know like major or minor third, because they're not apples to apples when it comes to like, would be a very versus that sort of bluesy or rock sound. So we're all about the flat 7 a day for the rock sauce.
Got it.
Okay. So I like the key of A. I think it's right there in the middle of the neck. It gets taught profusely as the A minor pentatonic box out there on the interwebs. So let's keep it simple as our home key of A. We're going to be incorporating a lot of that flat 7 built off of the power chord shape. And I would like it if, how about if I want you to start as the rhythm guitar player, and I want you to write a riff that when we break in a little bit, to have a little bit of like making time, and sort of we're going to like, we'll cut out the time, the dreadful time where guitar players try to write a riff, but we're going to have about 20 minutes where we work on our own and sort of work out some parts. And I want you to come back with something that's based around A, and it could go anywhere you want. So this is where you just trust your ear and you sing a riff, and then you just sort of spell it out using this. That's the only parameter, though. It's like you're using this box. And you can already hear as I do that, it sounds like, it sounds like whatever, like
Don't Fear the Reaper.
Don't Fear the Reaper. Yeah. And there's so many riffs that can live just from spelling out those notes individually, but I want you to think of it as a chunk of notes that move with you. So I think you're going to be a good rhythm guitar player with that job. You dig?
Yep, got it.
Love it. Okay. And then my job will be to start with a sort of a lead guitar theme on top of whatever you write. And then we'll figure out the section that comes after that.
Okay.
Okay. I believe we've now reached the point where it's time to introduce our friends and family to the Chaos Wheel. Insert sound effect. Hello, Chaos Wheel. Chaos Wheel is around us all the time. We just don't know it. And we're going to use a little app on my phone to spin a wheel. And on that wheel, we're going to populate it with various randomizing things that will make it a bit interesting. I've got a couple. Do you mind if I share them with you, Galen? Because we're at the mercy of these.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay. I would like to add 2, we'll call them chaos particles in this very, very first episode. Particle 1 would be, instead of using a pick as a pick, use a coin, use a quarter as a pick.
Oh, okay.
Because the grooved edges of a quarter will work perfectly to add a little additional rock sauce to the tone. So that's one thing that we'll add to the wedge, the wheel. And the other one I would like to add, which we're kind of already sort of doing, so maybe it's not that chaotic at all. It was going to be to just only use the bottom 3 strings. But let's say that would apply to, if we land on that, that would apply to the lead guitar also. So that'd be like a very, very low and sort of smoky tone. Yeah. How about you?
I need to add a couple?
Yeah.
A couple particles?
Yeah, then we get at least 3 or 4 going there.
Okay. I feel like double stops needs to be a particle.
Ooh.
And we need maybe like a fuzz. I think there's maybe like a fuzz tone particle in there too. We're getting real chunky on the low end.
I mean, I think we just like fuzz. I think
We
fuzz
just
is
add
going
that.
in. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
We
Fuzz
don't
made
have to
the
make
cut.
that a particle.
Yeah, that's like it's the most non-chaotic, sensible choice in this case, right? Fuzz, and I'm just writing a check mark next to fuzz. Thank you,
happening.
Fuzz. Yeah. Okay. What else you got as far as chaos? Maybe it could be like something in terms of like, playing with your eyes closed or putting an oven mitt on. I mean these things happen out there.
I like oven mitt. Let's go with you're thinking you're going to palm mute, but now it's actually just a fuzzy oven mitt mute.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm making a wheel now. Chaos 1. And I'm going to add some items on the list. I'll write quarter. I'll write double stops. And low 3. We'll do that.
Man, I'm really rooting for oven mitt now.
Yeah. The shifty oven mitt is always the crowd favorite. I'm just going to write mitt. Okay, so we've got 4 wedges of our chaos wheel. Okay, for the folks viewing at home, it's just a 4-colored wheel. Sorry, it's out of focus, but it's got double, quarter, mitt, and low 3. All right. Do we spin it once or do we spin it twice? What do you think?
Well, I think we spin it once for each of us. So twice.
Okay. I don't know who's leading who, but I think we both agree it's time to spin the wheel of chaos. Maybe we'll get the clickety clack in here. Let's see. Oh, it's spinning. It's clicketing. It's clacketing. Quarter. Gotta use a quarter as a pick. I like that one. Because to me, I don't know whether it's how they did it, but on a lot of Cake, the band Cake, their stuff, especially like that rhythm part and like I Will Survive, the cover they did, it just sounds so like scrapey and cool. If anyone knows how that was done, please flame us in the comments and get real mad about it. Clickety clack, spin number 2. And it can't be quarter again. Oh, double stops. Oh, oven mitt will have to wait for another day, and it shall wait in the drawer, brooding. Okay, so we've got our 2 chaos elements. We've got to use a quarter as a pick, both of us. This is gonna make it sound extra scrapey, which I love.
Oh man, okay.
Rock sauce guaranteed, and double stops. Or how about at least one of us? We don't got to be chained to it. So at least one of us uses a quarter. I seem the most excited about it, so I think I'll use the quarter. And you're going to be in charge of double stops probably when you switch over to lead guitar.
Okay.
Would make the most sense, I believe. Yeah, okay. So we've got our strategy. We've got our assignment, folks. We need to write a theme song, an opening riff for this very podcast. And we're going to do it on this podcast. In case you're just joining us, hello and welcome. Now it's time to get to work. So by the power of magical editing, you'll hear something else while we go into our work mode. Ready, break. Howdy, kids. If you want to do a one-to-one lesson that kind of looks exactly what I'm doing with my buddy Galen right now, we're just hanging out and we're learning things and we're also using it, then book a one-to-one Zoom lesson with this guy right over here. The one-to-one lessons really are the creme de la creme. We get 60 minutes per session to just go through whatever you've been working on. I'll give you quick tricks and licks and ideas and a personalized practice plan. It's going to turbocharge your growth. And just think, if there's a guitar player in your life, could be you, could be a friend, could be a family member, this is an incredible gift to yourself, to someone that you love. If they need a boost of guitar fun from this knucklehead over here, one-to-one lessons are the way to go. The link is in the description. Shock, shock. Oh, and if you buy a bundle of 4, you get $100 off. Hey, look at that. I'm advertising myself. This is new. It's weird. Ew. All right, so we're going out of mute mode. We're about to show each other what rhythm parts we've cooked up in the name of rock. What do you got?
Okay, here we go.
Yes. Yes. I beseech thee, rock gods, smile upon us. Done. Love it. Tell me, I mean, I hear what you're doing. You got your power chord with your flat 7 getting in there. Love it. Totally into it. Okay.
All right.
And now I think we got Tony hacking up a lung because the rock spirits have found him, turning him into a hound of hell. They've possessed his torso. I love you, Tone. It's just a hairball. Relax. So the thingy I was working on, this is fun because we're sort of quilting together ideas like in mystery mode, is like going to a section that goes like a little departure there, and then we come back maybe to the. So let's try, you play your rhythm riff, and then as soon as you're done, I'll sort of swoop in and try to play mine, and then as soon as I'm done, go back to yours as sort of a switcheroo.
Yeah, with all of the Zoom lag will be real, but we'll do what we can.
Yeah. One more time, yeah. Okay, then I'll go after this. And you take over. Perfect. So now what I'm hearing to my sort of songwriter ear is like, oh, we just need an ending. We need a way for it to finish. And so what we're doing as sort of a arrangement sort of side note is we're doing like an AABA format. So A not necessarily meaning the key. In fact, it never does when you're talking about arrangement. It's just a coincidence. There's many letters that overlap in the musical lingo. So when we're saying A section, B section, in this case, the A riff is the one that Galen wrote. And then mine is just sort of like a little departure riff where it just goes to it once. And then we come back to your A riff. And I would say once we come back to that A riff, oh, we got Tony going. Now we got Lolly going nuts. The rock sauce is making the hounds. The hounds are playing percussion with their collars. When we come back to that A section, we need to add a little nugget of something to tie a bow at the end of it. So it sounds like you're doing kind of like And if we want to make it nice and punchy for our podcast listeners, I'd say when we come back to it, we only do it once. So in that one go around, that one cycle of that first riff, we need to figure out a way to just kind of like, I think, get it back home to back to that A note. So sing a riff if you would, like sort of starting with that riff you're playing, and find a way to end it sooner than it normally would.
So it's like bum 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 bum.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
We want to cut that last chord out. So like bum 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 bum, or just something to wrap it up.
But what I love is like exactly what you're doing is like what songwriting actually is. When people try to think or overthink that, I don't write songs, I don't know. It's like it's really just making decisions for an intended result. Like we want to sort of end it with a sense of finality. So yeah, what you just did was a couple of perfect variations of like bum boom 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 boom. Like we could do a push into it or a slide, but the main thing is that we come back to that A chord to sort of stick the landing. So play your original riff one more time and just feel out a variation to end it. Ooh, I like that. Yeah.
Some sort of just like grab and slide back into the one chord.
Yeah, play it again, just so it sticks. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Try it one more time just to smooth out the edges, because there's a nice kind of like like that slide is kind of a cool moment to hit the G and then just slide into the A, which is kind of a nice like dexterity thing to not strum and hit that last A, but you get it sort of when you slide up to it, right?
Okay.
then it's like, it's almost like remembering in your head. A lot of times what players of all sorts of whatever instrument, they have a little riff in their head, like bum, 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 bum. Like that's your kind of like mnemonic device in your head to just be like, oh yeah, it's got this sort of accent to it. It's like, bum, 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 bum. So it's like a 1-2 strum, 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 slide, so 3 hits with your picking hand and then slide. And you'd be amazed at how much that like, it sounds silly when you sort of state it out because it's like, oh, I got it. But it's like when you make it real deliberate with your voice, it really grooves it into your brain. So it's there when you need it, like, in a different
a bum,
context.
bum, bum slide.
Right, exactly. Right. Love it. Okay, so let's play just like what we did before. You're going to do 2 cycles of it, then I'll play my little breakaway, and then you'll play the ending.
Okay, here we go. 1, 2.
So good. So the riff being as strong as it is already means that I think less is more in terms of the top part, which I like that because anytime I listen to like AC/DC or something where it's like riff driven, it's like, what more do you need? You got the pocket of the drums and you got this big sounding riff. It's like, yeah, there might be a guitar solo that happens later in the song, but there's not a lot of sprinkles and noodles on top during that main riff.
Right.
So I could hear, if I'm going to be opening up playing the lead part, I could hear something that's maybe like a repeating figure, that sort of goes around, that doesn't try to do too much. And I would probably start with thinking like, A minor pentatonic, but like, and this is again where like singing it before you play it is as absurd as it seems. It's like, this is kind of how the sausage gets made, where I think it's like boom, 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 ba-da-dum, 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 ba, like that kind of like, and then it maybe kind of goes. So
yeah,
maybe
there's got to be a bendy in there.
You've got to get a bendy in there, especially with the quarter to get the nice scrapey. So I'm thinking just real kind of like, and I like this sort of taking a repeated shape. So we've got this like, and then just leaning into those bluesy bends, just like keeping it right down the middle. So even though we've got our zoom lag, so it'll sound pretty wonky, let's try sort of playing it slow and kind of simulating what your rhythm part with this lead part would be. Count me in.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then, now we got to find a lead part for you when we go to this other bit where you got to play double stops because the wheel has spoken. So I'm going like, now again, before, I don't know if your first instinct is to maybe ask, well, what are the chords? And I would say before we even worry about maybe like trying to match the chords to scales and all that, which sometimes can trip us players up, what if we stay in this mindset of like, we just sort of were humming some stuff that sounds like it comes out of the blues scale or just the basic kind of singable riffs. If we keep that mindset and we're like, so that's the little nugget there. If I loop that, maybe hum it in your head or just start scat singing, because I know you got them pipes. Galen's got golden pipes, y'all, and he keeps trying to play cute with it, but let us hear it. I'm just going to be looping and enjoying the show. Yeah, I like that lick. I love that. Yeah. And I'm only stopping because I think that's like the best part of co-writing is just the other person being like a filter cheerleader. So right now I'm like, my ear caught that, and I love that. That little phrase you did sort of twice. Let's just try to refine that. 3, 4. Yeah, and so let's get that same lick right at the beginning because we're only going to get one of these. So it's a real sort of airtight. So right from the top, 1, 2, 3. Great, love it. So it could be exactly the same twice, or maybe there's just we'll find a little variation on it. So let's find So within that A minor box 1, let's just find those kind of notes. The ba da 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 bum kind of. Yeah. Nice, perfect. Yeah, you got it. So that's right there in the middle of that classic A minor pentatonic box. So play it single note lines, and again, sorry for the Zoom lag. Maybe we'll figure out a way around that at some point. But for now, we'll play it slow and just sort of get that phrase dialed in underneath your fingers. 3, 4. Right. Yeah. 3, 4. So do you like the are you playing like a different riff at the very beginning, like the da, 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 like that's cool. Yeah, let's refine that. 3, 4. Love it. So now it's something to that effect, but I'm just trying to find the notes so that then if we want to make these double stops, this is very doable within this scale. That's what's kind of fun about the that pentatonic shape is that it kind of comes with these ergonomic, like, which again I've heard people, including yourself, say, well, I play these are fourths and a third, is that they sound kind of weird on their own, and they can, but in the context with a rhythm guitar behind them, they can actually sound like really kind of like thick and stanky. So like, let's see if we can find that maybe so you're going to be hitting I would suggest starting by trying to hit the string lower than where the melody is. So the melody will be on top, as they might say, and then the string below it coming from the scale would be what you hit. Yep. Right. And that one's even, that last riff is even easier because they're just going to be right next to each other. They'll be like, just kind of, whereas you had to grab that diagonal looking one up here, now they're, right. Totally, yeah. So I'll loop the chords again. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That one doesn't quite sound right to me, that starting off one. So is it just...
So how about this? How about for the first lick we do just single line, and then for the second lick we do. But with these, it is kind of you got to jump in and go for it, because again, on their own, they will sound kind of like parallel harmonies that I think with your vocal training, they sound a little bit kind of static or almost kind of Gregorian or something. But in the context, and just use your finger shape because they're just like, it's almost like you're hitting the pentatonic scale with like with big thick fingers. You're just like mashing down 2 at a time for that second lick. So 3, 4. Yeah, and we only get 1, so we got to. Right there was the entire duration, so it'll be like. Da, 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 da.
I see. So the second one through gets the mashing.
Yeah. So we'll just make the first one single line, and then we'll evolve it into double for the second lick.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Let's just isolate that little bit there real quick. Yeah. Nice. Okay, now before you go too deep in the soup, I want you to keep attaching it to the phrase, the exact phrase, not approximation, because we got to keep this melody singable. So it's da 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 da. Keep attaching that to whatever you put on top. So play it single and then play it double stops, right? So that's a different riff than the melody, right? I thought we were doing the.
I was originally thinking it was.
Right. So to harmonize that with the double stops would actually be. So play the note below the melody. So that's our rule of thumb for this. There it is. Yeah. Okay, so now loop that and keep that phrase as part of the DNA. You can't lose that phrasing. That's the hook. So I'll just sort of vamp on the A. So you can just play as you feel it. That's it. Okay, now with the actual chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's great. That's it. And that's
double stops.
Yeah, that's
Check.
Double stops in quarter scraping in airtight song composed. Now we got to make it.
Right.
And the trick of making it is that we can't get caught in the quicksand of orchestrating too much. There's so much rock sauce here built into these 2 guitars. For my money, I would say if I heard these 2 parts just ripping and rocking, what more do you need? What more could you ask for?
I like a triangle or a shaker.
No,
I think just like one.
No, like a triangle actually just came out of your mouth. Yeah, and you were serious too. It wasn't ironical. You were like, "Oh no, definitely. There's still a lot of breathing room for some triangling. We'll see about that, but definitely, yeah, okay, definitely sprinkles on top vibe, which is cool. That'd be a good counterbalance to our rockitude." Hey everybody, this ad is for my dog Tony. My dog Tony is an amazing dog. He's been with me for like 13, 14 years. I don't know. He's a rescue. He's hilarious. He can't see anymore. He can't hear anymore, but the boy is all heart. And I don't have any sponsors yet. And I didn't want to just keep running ads about my website, which is great, guitarfriendtim.com. But that's not the point. It's about Tony right now. Tony Baloney, Tony Bones Jones, has just a heart of gold, and he's a good cuddler, and he's a good protector, and he weighs about 20 pounds, but it's mostly muscle, and it's all in his upper body, so he's very top heavy, and I'll show you a picture of him right now. Yeah, look at that underbite. The guy's a champion. Anyway, for guitar lessons, go to guitarfriendtim.com, but to hang out with Tony, just keep watching the channel. Anyway, if you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps the growth of the YouTube channel, and it really helps put some food into Tony's belly. More bacon for Tone. And we're back. And this is the great reveal of episode 000. We don't know how it's going to go. You don't know how it's going to go. We don't know if you'll ever see this. But if you're seeing this, we made it. And here we are. What do you think, Galen? Do you have any apprehensions or any thoughts, feelings, concerns before we play our grand first draft of our own theme song?
Look, I feel like we missed out on a glockenspiel opportunity, but other than that, I feel like we're coming in hot. It's going to be good.
Okay, so he's ever longing for the triangle, looking out the window as it rains, yearning for just a little bit of pixie dust. But what have I told you? I'm about to play you something that has every bit of what we put into it, every ounce of the rock sauce. Every bit of that flat 7 sneaking in there, the power chords. We even got a bit of Fuzzy McFuzzerton. We got the edge of the quarter, which I was, due to the chaos wheel, I was told I had to play with, instead of a pick, a shiny coin. And that came through with great benefit. There was room for some percussion. There was a little sneaky sauce after you sent me your tracks. I put it all together and tried to check all the boxes. And I don't know. Are you ready to hear it?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Folks, this may or may not be the theme you hear every single time you tune in diligently to this show. But at the very least, you caught this episode, this first draft of Guitar Friends Podcast, theme number 1. Ha! Welcome to this episode of Guitar Friends. Thanks for that scorching intro, boys. And Galen, how do you feel?
Wow, man, that makes me want to listen to this podcast. I'd listen to that weekly.
Yeah, we just got you. You just did. It's like that billboard that says, "Oh, I don't know, do billboards work?" They just did. You just got taken for a rock power slide. What do you feel? What did you notice? What came through in the final draft?
This is the first time that I'm hearing your lead line, which sounds super great. The singable piece, the da 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 da
yeah, yes, yeah, and that's the fun of it, is that it traces back to just some scat singing, noodling, and then in the end, when I was just about to record it, I had the quarter scraping the strings, and I was playing with this little wah pedal, so it added like an additional level of kind of like sort of like making it be a little weird, giving it some personality, but it was all riding on that melody. And that was fun because your part in the middle, those double stops sound great. And I just added some fuzz to it. And are you a little more convinced now that those double stops can sound kind of stanky when you put some tood on them?
Yeah. I don't know if you... So I sent you 2 lead lines, one with the double stops and one without. And when I was playing it, I threw that second one in to just help the melody line poke out. I noticed I was not getting it poking out the way that I wanted it to when I was playing the double stops. And that might just be me getting the pick hand going right. So I kind of cheated my way around it by adding a second track. But
yeah, And just so you know, sometimes you send something to a mixer and they're like, yeah, I didn't even listen to the other one. I knew what I wanted and I went for the doubly McDoubleton because it sounded so good. So yeah, I think mission accomplishado for our intended goal, which was just try to make something out of thin air with a time constraint and with the assignment. And I can't tell you how many times like something will start off in my line of work on the music production side as like, well, I guess we have to do this today. And by we, I mean me and the dogs have to figure out a way to make a track sound a certain way by, like maybe by lunchtime, we might have a deadline. We have to send it off. And then it goes from being a really constrained feeling to like, oh, that's really cool. That wouldn't have happened otherwise. So kudos to you for jumping along on the ride of like, well, we'll see what happens. And the more that you're willing to do that, I would say to anyone listening, guitar players, musicians, and maybe even in other areas of your life, if you're willing to make a little bit of a mess at the early stage of the rough draft, not overjudge it, and then just see it through, it's going to turn into something probably better than you expected.
Yeah, make a thing.
Make a thing. Well done. We made a thing. Let's play ourselves out with our own theme song again. I'm going to put it on. Thanks for listening to Guitar Friends, episode 00000, and we'll see you in the next one. Take it away, boys. I love this part. Okay. I want to say thank you for watching this episode, for listening to it. And we're off on our Guitar Friends voyage. Do you like the theme song? Do you think we could rock harder? Should we try some different styles? This was created by Tim Fagan with my co-host Galen Maynard, and we're here to rock your socks. See you next time. Yeah, buddy. And we didn't get Glock, but you did hear that weeble-deeble little set.
I just noticed that, in the middle section.
It's a tip of the cap to the Glock that rocked.